Welcome back to the Hollow Games Network. I'm Ginger Joey.
And I'm Corey J. Fry.
Corey J. Fry. Nice little Futurama reference. I get that
Fu-
one.
Futurama's back today. We got 10 new episodes dropped on
Oh,
Hulu today. And yeah,
nice. I'll have to check that out.
I've
So,
watched a couple so far. They're good.
yeah.
There's one episode in particular that is entirely a math episode that is the most David X. Cohen episode I have ever seen. It's just like all mathematics jokes all the
Okay,
time. I'm like,
spoiler boy,
yep.
slow your roll. Slow your roll.
I mean, they tell you from the beginning the name of the episode is the Numberland.
No, I'm getting there. I'm actually in the middle of watching that Alien Earth at the moment. So,
I'm liking that too, but Futurama is always tops for me. I
well,
love it.
see, now I would have expected you to be able to watch a lot of stuff because we're doing a little remote one here because somebody
It's
got
true.
COVID.
Yeah, that's part of the reason we're a little delayed today, or we're
Yeah.
getting this out on Monday rather than Sunday, because yeah, fun times with COVID for me this last weekend. A friend of mine went out to a movie with me last week, and then the next day messaged me going, so I have COVID.
Gotta
And
love friends.
I was feeling really good that I was going to be okay. We were talking through the week. I'm like, I'm going to make it. I'm still fine. I'm going to be all right. And nope, it hit me, and it hit me
Yeah.
hard.
Well, beyond just Corey getting COVID, the other reason why we wanted to delay the Sunday summary to a Monday summary is because of the announcement of FFG wanting to do a meta update. And we figured, well, why don't we just wait one day, figure out what that update's going to be, and then we can actually touch base on that as well. But first, we're going to talk about the usual thing we do with the Sunday summary, and that is the PQ scene from the last week. Corey, what were we looking at for this last week?
So this last week we saw 12 PQs, 12 regular PQs, and one limited PQ, along with a major tournament down in Brazil. And a couple store showdowns here and there with smaller turnouts, but yeah, an interesting week. A lot of, I would say, the champions in top eight is a lot of the usual suspects. We saw the bulk of it be a bunch of Hantu Blues, Quinlan Red, Boba Data Vault. So a lot of what you were expecting. Although we did have a few new decks start to pop up, which I thought was interesting, or not even, I wouldn't say new decks, but a lot of decks start to get a little more prominence. One of the biggest ones was Yoda Red, which won two PQs, one in the UK, I believe. I think the other one was in Italy. So we had a couple of those take some tournaments, and a lot of them place. We saw a fair number of Yoda Reds in the top eights this last weekend. I don't have, unfortunately, the exact number offhand because I haven't actually added all that up, thanks to being sick with COVID. But if you look through this last weekend, you'll see a fair number of those showing up, along with, as I mentioned, a lot of Quinlan Reds, a lot of the various decks that we are used to seeing. We actually had a Kylo Tarkentown win one as well. In the UK somewhere, it was in Spain, was where that one was at. So a pretty good smattering of decks winning. But that said, it's still a lot of the same in the top eights that we're seeing over this last weekend. Mostly. Before we talk about some of the other outliers and the newer stuff popping up, Joey, did you have any comments on what we're seeing so far?
Not really. I mean, the most interesting one that I saw was the Palp Yellow versus Palp Yellow in a final. So,
Yeah, that
total
was in
mirror match, green yellow
Lincoln.
control.
Or no,
And
where was that one
sorry,
at? Where was that one at again? If I remember
I
correctly.
I want to say that was in Australia.
I think something like that. Yeah.
I think I can't remember, but I watched the final of that one. And it was just like, wow, this is definitely a grind fest. And both those players like had to know their decks like the back of their hand, and then they had to like just anticipate what your opponent's going to do. And it's like, what would I do in this situation? Well, that's probably what they're going to do to me right now too. And it just came down to card draw. So who got
Yeah.
the cards when they needed at that point in time, which is essentially what mirror matches usually end up being. So the
Yeah,
other one that
that's
I heard about was it Bobby Sapphire's Cad Bane run. So I didn't actually see that match yet myself, but I've Heard about the deck already from a different podcast as well, so I knew it existed out there where it's more of like a Weenie Rush version of Cad Bane opposed to your more gritty control style.
Yeah, I watched a number of games from that PQ while I was down sick. Just had that streaming in the background, and yeah, it was a interesting deck. It was on stream a couple times. It's just a incredible mass of one drops. I think like 15 or so one drops in that deck, and it just spams units out. Spams them out nonstop, bounces them back with McClunky just to play them right back, and then play something else as well. It's a little gross. I think it's very well positioned for what the current meta is, this moment right now. Will that continue? We'll talk about that in a minute, but yeah, like I think it's a very good deck for where we're at the moment. So yeah, if you're going to any PQs this weekend, it might be one worth taking a look at. But it's also a deck that does have a pretty high skill floor. So if you haven't been playing Cad Bane, I don't know if you'll be able to jump right into it.
Yeah, we'll have to see what's going to happen for this weekend because the other thing, again, why we wanted to wait
Well,
is
first of all, I do want to highlight one thing really quick that
sure.
there were a couple outlier decks that I want to mention that I think are really interesting and I kind of want to mess around with. So, first of all, we saw I believe, sorry, I had this up here. This was in Australia. We had a wedge blue place in the top eight. I think it was Australia. I can't, or yeah, it was Australia. They got seventh place, Wedge Security Complex, nonetheless, which looked actually like a pretty fun deck. We've seen some Wedge blues popping up
I thought a wedge
here and
blue won a
there.
26 person or something PQ already.
Yeah, so we're getting a few of those starting to pop up here and there, and it does look like a pretty good space deck. It has some interesting pieces to it. I thought the most interesting of all those was the fact that it's running a single uh, off uh, off aspect Millennium Falcon piece of junk
Yeah.
for to play for five. I mean it makes sense. It's one of those if you have nothing on board, you could drop that and flip wedge onto it immediately. So
Yep.
I see the game plan there, and yeah, interesting. It also has a couple legal authorities, which I know will make you happy to always see that card popping up.
So I
Uh,
used to run Millennium Falcon piece of junk in my Grand Inquisitor deck
Interesting.
because you could drop it for five, or on the flip turn of six, you drop it for five. You attack with it. You ready it while Grand Inquisitor is in his leader mode. You attack with it
Hmm.
again. You flip Grand Inquisitor out. You ready it again. So it's a 9 damage swing with just the one Falcon. Even at a five cost, it's still worth that amount.
Yeah, that's a that's a really good play. Yeah, if you can pull it off, obviously. But yeah, if you
Sure,
could get that out,
everything's if you can pull it off.
yeah, that is gross. So yeah, I liked seeing that. The one though that was really interesting to me that I kind of want to, I already want to build myself is out in Poland. We had a second place for a Han Solo Spark of Rebellion Red Force, which is
Yeah.
very interesting. Um, Looks pretty good. Like, as I said, it looks like a strong deck. I don't know if the changes we're going to talk about will hurt it that much because it will be impacted, but I still think it might work without it. It just looks like a really, really aggressive deck, playing a lot of strong force units, getting them out early, and just going heavy aggro at your face quick.
Well, it's just a
Yeah,
basically a variation of the deck that I run right now. So,
well, Spark of Rebellion,
oh, I know.
not Han
But
2.
it's basically just doing the same thing. It's a yellow
Okay.
red force deck that is basically using the Han to cheat out resources. The difference is that I bring him in
Yeah.
damaged, he doesn't bring him in damaged, but he has to put that resource down.
Yeah, it's also I would say it's a little lower to the ground as well.
Probably.
It's very low to the ground. I think the only big units are a couple maces and a couple wreckers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and deepest, but that's really it. And everything else is I think three cost mostly with a
Mm-hmm.
Kiadi, which Kiadi for Han one. I hadn't thought about that because I'm not a big Han one player, but
Yep.
yeah, Kiadi's a wonderful card for that deck. That deck needs cards bad.
So the other thing I've been running right now is Mace Windu's lightsaber. So
Oh yeah.
not only do I have Chaotic Mundi, but I have Mace Windu's Lightsaber, and when I'm running both versions of Mace, the 6 and the 7 drop. So you can equip one onto either one of them at that point in time for more card draw, even without the Force at that point in time.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's really fun seeing that one, because that's not a deck I've really seen pop up before, but I immediately looked at it and I'm like, oh, that looks fun. I kind of want to mess around with that. So that said, as you were saying, with the Fantasy Flight announcement, as I take a quick sip of water.
Yeah, so one of the other reasons why we delayed the Sunday summary was because we wanted to wait and find out what the announcement for the meta update was going to be from Fantasy Flight, which speculations were running rampant, and pretty much there was three things that were on the docket to potentially happen, and one of them actually happened. So it's not a surprise to most people. Whether it was needed is the speculative thing at this point in time, and I think the field is kind of split on that front. A lot of people were wondering why it didn't happen sooner. Other people are like, well, now that it didn't happen sooner and we've already kind of like fallen into what we have right now, did we really need to do that? Is that really the problem causer? Their main speculation, oh, and force throw has officially been suspended,
Yes.
is the one thing that happened from Fantasy Flight. The other
Ding
things
dong,
that
the witch
were
is dead. Thank God.
again,
You
that's
know my
the
opinion.
which camp are you in kind of thing. So
Yeah.
the other things that were speculative to have been on the chopping block would have been either Data Vault or even Tarkin Town itself as the locations or the
I would go the other
bases.
way. I think Tarkintown was a lot more speculated than Data Vault. I think Tarkintown was probably number two in the speculation I saw, which
From
has
what
good
they
reason.
said, it was yes. But what I'm talking about is like a lot of the community was speculating that Data Vault was
Oh
going to be on the
yeah.
chopping block. But according to
Yeah.
Fantasy Flight, the only other thing that they were really looking at was Tarkin Town because their biggest thing that they were trying to do was balance the aspects and the viability of the aspects. And they felt that aggression is currently weighted too heavy as a utilized aspect in most competitive decks. Their goal by getting rid of force throw is that that will hopefully curve out some of the decks that are getting a lot of the weight. And they felt that the Tarkin Town was only highly utilized by two decks, a third
Mhm.
being the Kylo, but the two primary ones would be Quinlan and Cad Bane, and that wasn't as big of a threat. That's the one that I disagree with them on. I think Tarkin Town's what needed to be banned personally. So
I I mean, I will agree. I think Tarkintown potentially could need a ban, but I also think I mean I can see why they only did force throw, because the problem is always if you do too many, well, suspensions technically is what they call it, because it could
sorry,
come
correct.
back.
Yeah.
But yes, if you do too many at once, you can't predict as reliably what you're going to see. You're entering too many variables. You have too much risk of really messing things up and massively nerfing things. Just the force throw ban alone or
They did
suspension alone.
three before.
Yes, they did three, but they were all focused on, well, two of those was
Cunning.
focused on one specific deck.
Right.
And they were all cunning, which was overpowered. And the third was, I mean, an incredibly right call of DJ, because that would have been just, oh, that meta would have been just as bad with Bane Django gone and DJ. Oh, I don't even want to think about that. But no, that was a case where they targeted it, but they were targeting one deck. This is kind of targeting wider. You're hitting a lot of decks. So in that aspect, they didn't want to go too heavy, and it makes sense to me. They definitely highlighted that Tarketown is still on their watch. And if we start to see that kind of dominate, we could definitely see that be banned before the next set or suspended before the next set. Potentially, depending on where they're at. But I understand their reasoning there of force throw alone going away shakes up a lot. I think something like 50% or so of the PQ winners have been force throw. So that changes a lot of the meta right there.
Hmm. I think the thing with Tarkin Town will be based off of what the leaders are in the next set, whether or not they want to continue doing that. Because if you
That
come
too,
out
yeah.
with like a bunch of ping leaders, aka Padme is kind of like a new Quinlan, so to speak. So if you can come out with a bunch of new like ping type leaders, then I still think Park and Town becomes an egregious problem because a lot of this game gets dictated on the first couple turns. If
Mhm.
your first couple turns just kind of get washed, you're just done. You're DOA. There's really not coming back from that. So,
Not DOA, but you're in a bad spot.
like
You're in
honestly,
a poor spot.
if your first three plays, turn one, two, and three, get countered, I don't know how
The
you come
first,
back from that.
yeah, first three will really do you in.
Right. And Tarkentown
First two
basically
are
is the
tough.
built-in counter to whatever turn one you do is. So then if you
Yeah.
have a play to counter turn two, because you already have your unit on the board, plus whatever at that point in time to counter their turn two play, and then you can get away with it's just it basically creates the train rolling to
Hmm.
get that one, two, three, you're out.
Yeah.
So and that's to me the problem with it. So essentially, Harkentown, in my opinion, is what's holding back aggro decks and Force Throw is arguably what's holding back control decks. They said they wanted a mid range meta, and they have it with those two cards alone being in the meta. You've now removed one of them, so then the speculation becomes does this go back to a control meta at this point in time? Or are we going to see enough non stuff doing that?
Which I think that's where I feel like there's good potential here that yes, we are going to see control come back. And that's a big hit to these Tarkentown decks because that Tarkentown doesn't mean crap to a control deck. Whatever.
Right.
I don't care. Um, and then the fact that control comes back to start pushing those decks down, that gives opportunity for aggro to make a comeback because again, it's a rock, paper, scissors things. In general,
Ideally,
aggro
yes.
is advantaged against control, and mid range is advantaged against aggro, and control is advantage against mid range. Right now, we are very mid range heavy. Aggro's there. I mean, our pilot decks are aggro decks, but it's a lot of mid range. And the problem was control couldn't come in to deal with that and start to whittle down on mid range's market share. And that's what we're seeing now is, oh, there's an opportunity that control can come back. And we'll see that. Oh, we'll definitely see a lot more control decks. Be prepared for that.
Boo.
But it's a good opportunity for aggro then, because those control decks you can build around that. You know what you're getting in that.
Yes and no.
Force
I
throw
mean,
is hard to build around.
well, you can't really build around the force throw. You
Yeah,
just have to basically anticipate this can happen. The most you can do is build something around in your deck in case they force throw you. But the thing was is that they always had the option of force throwing themselves, which you have zero control over whatsoever. And the really skilled players would be using force throw like a
a
scalpel
one
with
cost deletion.
themselves being the victim of the discard to make sure and ensure that they can actually get out the removal aspect of whatever they wanted. Um, I'm a mix like my deck runs Force Throw, the main deck that I've been running right now, and I don't know that I run it anymore because of this, because it was kind of one of those niche plays that I could make doing the combination that I'm doing. So basically, and again, this doesn't come into
Yeah,
effect until next Monday. So
that's fair.
everything that is
Yes.
going to happen this weekend is still 100% force throw viable meta. You're probably going to be seeing a lot of the same stuff that you've seen over the last couple weekends still in effect. You
Yeah, I
might
do
see
think you'll
some
see a
people
smattering.
testing some stuff.
Yeah, I think you'll see a smattering of people starting to test stuff and see what it's like, and just kind of disregarding their force throw matchups and going, whatever. This is not data for me, but everything else is data for me, and seeing how this performs. So yeah, I think we'll see some outliers pop up.
Yeah.
But yes, you'll still see the usual suspects this weekend. So if you have a PQ this weekend, sorry, it's force throw again. Or not sorry if you play force throw. You'll be happy about that. But uh yeah, I agree. I think it's gonna be interesting. It definitely does hit some decks. I think Quinlan's hurt significantly.
I don't think it's significant against Quinlan.
mm, Quinlan needed that removal. So that's the biggest thing is that removal of leaders specifically that Quinlan could get out of force throw was huge for him.
Okay.
Losing that, there's no good replacement for that for him.
In
Um,
a yellow red combo, yeah, I get that.
yeah, in yellow red because he can't play anything without Tarkentown. Like he is a Tarkentown deck. So I think he takes a hit. I think Hantu is weakened a little bit, but still a strong deck. I think this gives opportunity for Hantu Green to get a market share, which I also think is a good deck.
So you think the green
Because
gets hurt less than the blue from this?
yeah, I think Green is going to do. I think Green gets a little more opportunity out of that. I think the ramp aspect is going to be helpful when we're coming into a meta where there's going to be more control. So I think that's a big thing because that, I mean, it gets them as crate dragons sooner. That's a huge thing.
Hmm.
When we have controls, a lot of control decks out there, it gives them Yoda sooner, which is also huge. So I think that could help that deck a lot. Um, Kylo Tarkentown, I think, might be dead. Um, I do think Kylo Green will probably pop up again. I think Kylo Green, Kylo ECL, Kylo Data Vault, whichever way you go, I could see that starting to pop up again. But I think, yeah, I don't think Kylo Tarkentown survives this. That deck needed Force Throw.
So then the question becomes, if the meta is going to be going into a more controlly standpoint, do we start seeing decks like Kira come back?
Here's coming back in force.
Right.
I mean, I'll call that right now, and you can quote me on that in a month when you see a lot of Kira's. Kira is going to come back in force. Be prepared for that and be building around that now. That you're going to see a lot of. I think we might see Bosk Blue pop up again. I think Iden's still going to be going strong. Uh, yeah, you're definitely going to see some of those heavy control decks coming back, which I mean, Palp is also salivating over because he loves feasting on on control decks. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes over the next month. It's kind of like it's feeling like the wild wild west in the middle of a set, honestly, because things change significantly with Force Throw gone. And this is, again, why I've been advocating that Force Throw needed to go, because I felt like it was warping the meta around itself. You had to build around it. It was constricting control, which then was causing issues for aggro because aggro has issues then with all these mid-range decks. So I am honestly pretty excited. I think there's some fun decks to come back. Biggest winner they even highlighted in the the Fantasy Flights stream is Han One.
Yeah.
I think Han One is back in force, baby. You'll be seeing those again. Get ready. Both yellow, but I also think there's blue builds using force and this red build using force that could be very interesting and worth messing around with. So I think that's exciting. I don't know any other decks that you think are going to make a little bit of a comeback after this.
I think the biggest one was like they said. I think Han 1 basically went completely out the window because of all the hand destruction, and they were already basically destroying their own hand in the process.
Hmm.
So that was basically just a double whammy. Um, the biggest thing that I think that this allows you to do though is you can start building your decks a little differently in the regards of before you didn't want to go too heavy because if you did, then it was almost going to like come back to bite you in the butt because you had to almost have like, oh, I got to have a little bit of a low curve so that if I do get force throwed, I can um, not have a cost card that's going to just eliminate my unit that I have on the board, kind of thing. You want to be able to discard something less than. It's a thing that I had to go through with my third sister deck. Is when I was choosing the
Hmm.
units that I was choosing them based off of, oh, I need this to have 3 health, so that if I get force thrown, I'm discarding a 2 cost card. Therefore, they're only taking 2 damage and they're surviving. Whereas a lot of the better units for the deck only had 2 health, but I was
Yeah,
basically just setting myself up to get like blown out by just a couple force throws. So I was having to build around that. This is going to open the door to go, okay, does discard still exist? Yes, but I don't get the double whammy of not only do I lose the card, I'm also losing my unit in play from the damage that you're doing to me. So now I can go back and reevaluate decks that I already have and reconstruct them in a different, efficient way that is now not building around the possibility of this. I think that's something that every player needs to look at their decks for is, oh, now I don't have to worry about having a bunch of mid range that I ramped into that is, oh, look, um, I have a bunch of 5 drops that, oh crap, I'm just gonna get force zone and blow myself up kind of thing. So
Yeah, you don't have to go like, I think some cards will start to disappear from the meta, a fair bit. Like, I'm already looking at my Kaz deck going, do I need all these one drops anymore? I mean, I still want some of them, but maybe
you
Mining
were
Guild
you
Tie
were
gets cut.
always saying force throw was preventing you to play your Poe Dameron deck. If you don't start
I
playing Poe
was
Dameron, I
going to say
swear.
that. I was actually going to get to that next. Is I am 100% on board for Poe at this point in time. Like, I love my Kaz decks. I'm still going to keep messing with them. I still think Kaz has long-term potential, but this opens the door for, I think, Poe Data Vault to be in an even better position. And I'm back on board, baby. I love me my Poe deck, and I'm going to be tweaking it now and looking to bring it to our PQ net in 2 weeks. It's
There's a
our
PQ
next.
this Saturday
But
for
our
in Kent,
PQ is,
Washington.
oh, that's
Then
the Washington one.
the
Yeah.
then there is a PQ, a limited PQ on the 27th. And then
Yep.
at Red Castle, there is a constructed PQ on the 28th.
That's at the 28th. So that's the one I'm going to. So, yep, I'm going to have that back at that PQ and probably even sectors. Because honestly, I love playing Kaz, but I love playing Poe even more. It
Sure.
just there were
And you
so many
should play the
games that
deck
just
you
felt
like to
so bad.
play, honestly. That's
Yeah,
what you should be doing.
yeah, 100%.
Unless your deck
So
got suspended, then you can't play that anymore.
I mean, you can still play most of these. I just, again, I don't think Quinlan you'll want to keep playing, but most of the other Force Throw decks, well, Quinlan and Kylo Tarkentown, I think, are the two that I'm iffy on going forward. The rest, I think, will be. Han 2's gonna be fine. Han 2 is very good, no matter
Yeah.
what.
I don't think my Han 2 survives after this though.
Maybe, yeah,
Um,
maybe your Han 2 Yellow can't quite do it, but it'll still do well. It also opens the door. Like, there's some other decks that I think are very fun that have been just shut down. A a big one is Ray Data Vault. I think you're going to see a lot of Ray Data Vaults popping up again. That's a
I don't
really
want to
good
see a
deck
lot of data
without
vault.
Force Throw.
I do
You're
not
going
want
to
to see a lot of data vault.
see you're going to see a fair amount of Data Vault. I think the thing about Data Vault, though, and the reason I don't think we'll ever see it banned, is we're kind of at we're close to the peak of Data Vault's power. Next set will really be the strongest I think Data Vault ever will be, and then it gets a huge nerf with rotation, because you have to remember you have to fill out a 60 card deck right now because we have Spark and Shadows with a lot of really powerful cards. It's easy to fill out a 60 card deck. Once that rotation hits and we only have Jump to Lightspeed, what is it? Legends of the
Legends of
Force,
the
and
Force and Secrets of
Secrets of
Power, and then
Power,
a lawless time.
yeah, and then Lawless Time, that's a step down, and that's going to make building a 60 card strong deck a lot harder. So, yes, I agree that Data Vault is maybe a little too much at times, but I also think it's about to get a big nerf with rotation.
It always just surprises me that it's only 3 hit points. It's literally just a single swing, a single average swing, and yet that
Yeah,
3 hit points always seems to freaking matter.
that single swing saves. And I was I think we talked about this when the set came out. I was not impressed with Data Vault when it was spoiled. I'm like, it's not very good. I don't want to do 10 more cards for 3 hit points. That's not worth it. Oh boy, was I wrong. Yeah, and I will admit that I was very wrong. It's worth it. It's 100% worth it. But again, part of that is because we have so many powerful cards. Spark was way overtuned. We know that. It's obvious at this point in time. And that kind of really makes it so it's not it's not difficult to make a 60 card deck. It's honestly, I feel like it's harder to make a 50 card deck than a 60 at this point in time.
I can attest to that because most of my decks start at 80. Um,
Yeah, exactly.
the other thing I wanted to touch base on a little bit is, in addition to the forced throw suspension, going into sectors, the Hoth intro set will not be legal.
Yep.
And I was actually disappointed to hear that. So you will not be able to use any cards from the Hoth starter thing until Secrets of Power becomes legal, is what they announced. So
Oh, it's not till Secrets of Power. I didn't know it was
it's
that
not
far
until
out.
Secrets of Power. And my thought
Mhm.
process is kind of interesting on that because their justification was the set comes out a day before the Portland sector or sectors. And
Yeah,
they didn't want people to be like bum rushing to have to get these cards and put them in their deck right away and stuff like that. And I
that
look
makes
at it as
sense.
like that's a sales opportunity you missed. You could have just had the sets at sectors and just be like selling a bunch of them real quick to people to get them to get those cards. I also think it's interesting that like they wanted to release the Legends of the Force. Well, they did release it technically, but they didn't want to have it all spoiled until 2 weeks before Worlds,
Hmm.
and that was going to be a short-term turnaround. Um, it's just interesting that they don't want it to be there because they're worried about people rushing to get out, but then at the same time they're making meta changes and stuff like that, or like banning, suspending cards that are causing people to have to like upturn everything they're doing already. All their plans are having to change as well, like a couple weeks before they're having to go do stuff. It's just interesting that they were okay with one but not the other. So
Yeah, I mean, I could see two potential reasoning behind it. Maybe they don't think they have enough product for it, that they didn't print enough initially to cover a bum rush for sets immediately, so they wanted to give it some time to make sure that they were able to get it out wide enough and get enough product out. That's a possibility. The other thing, and honestly, my hope is they're telling us that they're going to give us a way to get some of these cards that are only in the Hoth set,
yeah,
maybe in the promo packs and Secrets of
yeah,
Power, for
I
example.
kind of
And
hope they
I
do that
really hope so.
because I think that that's something that would allow the player base to not have to go out and buy 3 copies of the intro set just to get a
Yes.
play set of, say, the new Luke Skywalker and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. The
yeah,
fact that
I
it doesn't have
definitely
a
hope that they
playset is
do
an
something
issue.
like that. So,
Yeah,
um,
100%. That's my hope. We'll see.
yeah,
Obviously, you never know for sure with Fantasy Flight, but I do hope that that's the reasoning behind it. And then that would make sense because they're kind of saying, yeah, we're not going to make this legal until it's going to be easier to get these cards than having to buy 3 sets of Hop just to get 3 of something.
yeah. And there was something else I was gonna say, and I can't remember what it was. So,
That's fair. Well, I did want to mention another thing that came up on the Fantasy Flight stream that I thought was very interesting was a little
yep,
tease that
yep.
they're going to be talking about trilogy next week, and the tease very much made it sound like there may be a suspension list used for it, which I would appreciate. I I don't think, at least at this point in time, and even after the next set, we're at a point where it's reasonable to have Django or Boba back again. Boba, honestly, might never be okay to bring back because he was just overstated. Django may have potential in the future once there's enough stuff to properly combat him, but right now I think he would also be a huge problem. Although they're making more Django cards. What was the one that was spoiled recently? The one that does a damage to things when it comes into play. I was like, oh god, Django would love that. That's gross.
Oh, you're talking about the punishing one.
Yeah, the new punishing one. That's the one.
Yeah.
Sorry, brain not working. But yeah, the new punishing one, which is a great card,
I was all
would
like,
be
I haven't seen a new
gross.
Django. What?
Yeah, like that would be so gross in a Django deck. So it also might
I
be that Django is one to keep out for a while.
I'm actually when I saw that new punishing one, my first thought was Marshawn Rowe.
Yeah, yeah.
So I thought like, oh, that's gonna be a sick card with Marshawn Rowe if you can get it out and ready it right away or something like that. So
Oh yeah, yeah. It's got
um
they have been spoiling a bit. We haven't talked about it much. We might start talking a little bit more about cards in the future, just to have some additional aside from the meta conversation, but what we're seeing is interesting so far, is what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not put off by any of it thus far. I did see a new card that could have easily gone into my Han 2 deck as well, but we'll
Yeah,
see if that's not gonna stick around or not. But
yeah. I still don't love the
the
theme because I don't watch Star Wars for the politics, George. Really, I don't care about trade wars. We
but
don't.
I think there's a place for it, and I like the fact that they're
There is.
exploring
There
all
is.
aspects of it instead of just one aspect of it. So we'll see what happens with
No.
it. And that
Yeah,
was
I
the thing that
think
I
it's
wanted
good.
to mention that I forgot, which was the trilogy teaser. Because I'm actually hoping that they're going to announce there's a support structure for it, not just that they're going to start suspending stuff as well. Because I would
Yes.
like to see some actual like eternal type format supported. And if trilogy is the road they're going down for that, I'm on board for that. And I think that maybe one of our play videos coming up for a Thursday Throwdown needs to be a trilogy
Oh
Thursday
yeah.
Throwdown. So
Yeah, I'm genuinely excited for it. If we can have a suspend list, I would love to do competitive trilogy.
yeah,
As long as I'm not going to be seeing every single person showing up with a Django and a Boba deck, I think it could be a very fun format to play. Like I love the idea of it. I didn't get a chance to play it at Galactics, but I know Julian, one of our local players, he played in one of the tournaments, and he said it was so much fun. It's a really neat format. It's a really good time. It's just again, it needs to keep that suspension list, and I think it sounds like that's what they're doing. So yeah, hopefully they announce that along with starting to discuss. I don't know, trilogy PQs in the future. I could get behind that.
who knows? But I can actually be okay with the Boba Fett and Jango Fett and everything else like that being legal because then it becomes one of those mental games of you bring the leader and you just get it instantly banned. So then that way you can guarantee playing your other two decks that you actually want to play, and they don't get banned in that regard because you're basically
Yeah.
drawing out the ban. So I can see that being a mental game you're playing with your opponent at that point in time.
The issue is you can bring both Boba and Django. You can build both of those decks with no overlap easily.
But you gotta win with your other two deck, so you still have to have a third deck that you can deal with. So
Oh yeah, you need a third
I'm
deck
just
at
saying
that
the
point.
mental hurdle is kind of an interesting aspect to that format. That's all I'm
Yeah.
pointing out. So
No, no, I agree. I think those two are still just too overpowered, and they would end up being too dominant,
well, the
which would
one
make
thing
it
that
not fun.
yeah, the one thing FFG already said was that they admit that they made a mistake with Django with the stat allocation and everything.
Oh,
And
with
that
Boba,
was
you mean?
even,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry. And that was even stated in the latest video about the
Yep.
meta shakeup. So, if anything, I think Boba would be the one suspended. I don't think they would suspend Django in trilogy format.
I think Django, they made a mistake. I think they also made a mistake with Django in just the aspect of allowing his unlimited exhausts on his leader side,
But there's a
leader
lot of
unit side.
leaders that have unlimited capabilities once they flip over. Han 2 has unlimited triggers once he flips over. Like the new Padme has unlimited triggers once she flips over. So if it's a mistake to have allowed an unlimited trigger factor, then they haven't learned that lesson because they're still releasing leaders that do that.
No, I think it was, as I said, specifically it was the unlimited exhaust where it can shut down your entire board with a single juggernaut. We saw it over and over again. Like that is
Hmm.
just I mean, it's not fun. The number I was near quitting playing at that point in time because I'm like, I just can't play another Django deck. I can't stand this. I can't even play my game. I'm just sitting here staring at all my units being exhausted all day long. Great.
Well, that's neither here nor there now because that's going
Yeah.
to be next week's video, so we don't know anything about that. But essentially, all we really know is Force Throw will be suspended in 1 week's time. So if you love that card, get out your decks and start doing them for this weekend because that's your last opportunity in the Premier format to really let loose some throwing of sabers.
And for those of you who don't love the cards, start messing around with some new force decks. I think that's the other big thing is I think this opens the window for a lot more force decks to pop up and a lot more experimentation with force decks because now you're not just default. How do I use red? It does. Can I get red to fit? I mean, they highlighted in the stream Obi-Wan Yellow. It seems like it might be a pretty good deck going
It
forward.
is.
potential in that one now that Force Throw's gone.
A buddy
So
of mine has it
there's
built. It's very effective.
yeah, it's a good deck. So there's a lot of those, and it's a great time for experimentation with different stuff. Like, I mean, I'm going to be messing around with Talzin Yellow, which I don't think is quite as good as Obi Yellow, but another fun one, new way to play Talzin. That now that she's not just you know railroaded into being red, because why would you not play the best card in the game? I think that opens things up a lot. So yeah, get building. This is kind of I'm excited. I am genuinely excited because everything we know about this meta doesn't exist anymore. It's changed everything at this point.
And right before sectors, which is a great timing of that, I guess. So,
I mean,
all
we've
right.
got 3 weeks, right?
Yeah, that's about what you would have had at Worlds right before they made a whole set come out. So,
Yeah, so yeah, it's not that's not bad. We went through it with the Galactics, so
yeah.
it's the same. We're in the same boat.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for us here at the Holotable Games Network. Hopefully, you got some information, and we'll see you on next time.
Thank you all.